The bright sun was pouring through the enormous hospital windows the morning it happened, turning the polished floors into glossy mirrors that reflected every hurried footstep. Nurses rushed past, pagers beeped, and wheels of gurneys screeched across tile, but amid all that noise, the entire world seemed to freeze when a young woman nearly fainted in the middle of the cardiology lobby. Her medical file slipped from her hands, scattering pages like white feathers drifting through sunlight. Before anyone else reacted, a tall black doctor sprinted forward, catching her gently just before her knees buckled. And for the first time in years, Dr. Malachi Rivers felt something he couldn't diagnose, couldn't chart, and couldn't ignore. It wasn't medical, it was human. It was her. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Sparkles. As the young woman blinked, dazed but conscious, Malachi cradled her shoulders to keep her steady. Her name was printed neatly across the top of her fallen file, Arissa Vale, age 27, soft-spoken, underweight, and listed as extreme anxiety during medical environments. That first impression stayed with him, not because she seemed fragile, but because her eyes told a story of someone who had survived far more than her file could contain. Malachi carried her to a nearby bench, guiding her with quiet, gentle assurance. Arissa kept apologizing, her voice a thin whisper, but he brushed it off with calm professionalism. Except his heart wasn't so calm. Something about her trembling hands and big hazel eyes made him feel protective in a way he hadn't felt since childhood, before his own world fractured under the pressures of poverty and expectations. But no matter what he felt, he couldn't reveal who he was, not yet. Arissa had no idea that the doctor speaking softly to her wasn't just any doctor. She didn't know he was the new acting chief of cardiology, a position he earned after revolutionizing emergency cardiac procedures before the age of 35. She didn't know he came from nothing, raised in a broken neighborhood where sirens were more common than birds, where he studied under streetlights because the power bills often went unpaid. She didn't know how hard he fought to become the man he was. And surprisingly, he didn't want her to know. Not now. Not when she seemed so intimidated by hospital settings and important people. He needed her to trust him as a human first, not as a title. Over the next few weeks, he became her attending physician. Her heart palpitations were worsening, driven by a mixture of genetic predisposition and severe anxiety. Every appointment was a quiet battle for her, but Malachi made sure she never had to fight it alone. He entered each exam room with a calm smile and a voice steady enough to still any storm. Arissa grew more comfortable around him, though she remained shy, often avoiding eye contact and speaking in small sentences. He learned she worked as a freelance children's illustrator, filling her tiny apartment with sketches of whimsical animals and bright dreamscapes. She never talked much about her life, but once, when she thought he wasn't looking, he saw the faint shadow of a tear roll down her cheek as she studied her own test results. She was used to being alone. Used to feeling like a burden. Used to handling everything herself. Malachi recognized that look too well. One afternoon, Arissa sat in his office, sunlight spilling across the desk as she fidgeted with the sleeves of her soft beige sweater. She looked like someone trying to make herself smaller, as if life had taught her she didn't deserve space. Malachi discussed her test results, reassuring her that her condition was manageable with the right treatment, but the deeper he looked into her eyes, the more he saw the fear behind her silence. Not medical fear, life fear. So he stayed a little longer each time. Explained things more gently. Encouraged her. Listened. That was all she needed. Someone who didn't rush her, dismiss her, or overlook her. One warm afternoon, after a routine test, she sat with her hands trembling slightly. When he asked if she felt okay, she forced a smile, but her voice cracked as she admitted she'd been skipping meals to afford her medications. Malachi felt something inside him twist painfully. He wanted to help, but he knew she would resist if he offered financial assistance directly. She wasn't the kind to accept pity. So he made arrangements quietly, ensuring her treatment costs were reduced under a research case study fund that didn't actually exist. He paid it himself. And Arissa never knew, but emotions don't stay hidden forever. One late morning, as she walked into the hospital courtyard for fresh air, she spotted Malachi standing near the fountain, his suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up, phone pressed to his ear. His expression was tense, sharp, different from the gentle doctor she knew. He was speaking firmly with someone on the other end, saying words she never expected to hear. If the board can't approve the budget expansion, then as acting chief of cardiology I'll handle it myself. No patient of mine is losing treatment because of red tape. Arissa froze. Acting chief of what? Suddenly everything felt blurry. Her chest tightened, not from illness, but disbelief. She stepped backward, bumping into a planter and causing him to turn. Their eyes met, and she felt faint, not the medical kind this time, but the emotional kind. She realized she didn't know him at all. And for someone who had spent her entire life avoiding important, powerful people, this felt like betrayal. When he approached with concern, she stepped back. All she managed to say before fleeing was, "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" That moment shattered him. That night, she didn't show up for her scheduled test. The following day she missed her medication pickup. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Malachi felt a fear he hadn't felt since childhood, the kind that clenched in his chest until he could hardly breathe. He read her medical chart again and again, analyzing every rise in pulse rate, every note about her fainting episodes. He realized something devastating. Her condition could turn critical under emotional stress. That he needed to find her. He drove through the bright afternoon streets, searching the small places she mentioned in their conversations. The bookstore cafe she loved. The sketching spot near the community garden. The quiet bus stop where she liked to draw strangers who look like they're holding secrets. When he finally found her, she was sitting alone on a shaded bench, curled into herself, sketchbook closed beside her. She looked as if she'd been holding in tears for hours. Malachi sat beside her slowly, hands resting on his knees so he wouldn't overwhelm her. He explained everything, that he hid his position only because people treated him differently when they learned who he was, that he wanted her to feel safe as a person, not as a patient under someone with power. He told her he grew up with nothing, that titles meant nothing to him compared to honesty and kindness. The sunlight filtering through the leaves landed on his face, softening his expression, revealing the vulnerable truth he never shared with anyone. Arissa didn't speak for a long time. Her breathing was uneven, her hands trembling. But eventually, she whispered that she wasn't upset because he was important. She was upset because she didn't believe someone like him could ever truly see someone like her. She had spent so long feeling invisible that the idea of someone powerful caring scared her more than loneliness ever had. Malachi gently placed his hand over hers, grounding her. He told her that the moment he saw her collapse under the sunlit lobby, something shifted inside him, something more powerful than any title. He told her she wasn't invisible. Not to him. Not ever again. Her tears finally fell, the healing kind, and she let herself lean into the truth she had been avoiding for weeks. She mattered. She deserved to take up space. She deserved someone who cared. Their connection didn't heal everything instantly, but it began something real, something warm and steady that felt like morning sunlight after a long night. He walked her back to the hospital, stayed with her through the tests, and helped her establish a long-term care plan. Over time, she regained strength, confidence, and color in her cheeks. She sketched again, laughed again, and stopped whispering when she spoke. She wasn't shy because she was weak, she was shy because she had survived in silence. But now she wasn't alone. As their bond deepened beyond the hospital, Malachi realized something humbling. She healed parts of him too. The parts he hid behind success, expectations, and responsibility. She made him feel human again.